Can you hear anything I say?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Let me. It's probably on my end. Okay, I can hear you now.
Ah, that's perfect, man. It's
Awesome.
always like that in the beginning. Huh?
Yeah, my settings were on my monitor when it should have been on my little podcaster here. How you
Oh
doing,
man,
Ragnar?
yeah, I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. Thanks so much for the taking the time, man. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. It's good. It's good to see you. It's good to see put a face with the name of Ragnar, uh, and let's just talk about all things you and all things HELFRO. Did I pronounce it right, HELFRO?
Yeah, yeah, sounds good, man. Yeah, let's do it. Thank you, man. Before we begin, man, where are you from? And
I am from Louisiana in the States, about 2 hours west of New Orleans.
I see. Okay,
Yeah, and
sick.
you're from Iceland, correct?
Yeah, yeah. This tiny island in the North Atlantic. Yeah.
You'll be the first to know that you're the first person I ever met from Iceland.
Oh, that's sick. I hope I can do it justice, man.
You already have, man. The music that Will had forwarded me before we got this going on is just incredible. Yeah, I mean, he had told me that your band was releasing something soon, or y'all did already, pretty recently, and I was like, how did I never listen to this band before? It was just beyond me.
Oh, thank you so much, man. Uh, yeah, I think that it's not a surprise. I mean, we when we put out the debut album in 2020 on Season of Mist, we were completely unknown, and so we've been building completely from the ground up. And also, we haven't played live yet, although that is about to change next year. So I guess for all the effort we put into making the albums, we haven't been maybe using the traditional methods of pushing them. Which is of course touring, selling merch, spreading by word of mouth. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's gone slow, but it's really, yeah, I can really see a bunch of new people checking out the new album. So I'm super happy to see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first couple bands that came to mind when upon first listening to it was like some like some old classic Morbid Angel, or and maybe a little bit of Dissection. Am I off the mark on that?
Not really. The Morbid Angel thing, because it mainly comes from the main riff of the first single. So because I write all the music, but I have my guitarist Simon. He does sometimes some small arrangements. Mainly because I'm not a guitarist, but I know how to write tabs. But sometimes he has to, make it actually playable. But this Morbid Angel sounding riff, I actually wrote it in a little bit of a different way. It was more like a strumming riff, and he wanted to change it, so we were doing this chug, you know,
Yeah.
thing, which made it sound really much like Morbid Angel from Dominion era, which is
Right.
fine with me. But I've never in my life listened to a whole Morbid Angel album. So strange to say, I'm completely like I got into the scene in the early 2000s, and that's pretty much where I've been stuck ever since. Those are the bands that I listen to. So
Yeah.
Dissection, for example, I was fresh in the metal scene. I was like 16 years old when he released the last album, Re and Chaos.
Hmm.
I absolutely adore that album and all the other works by Dissection. So definitely there must be some subliminal influences from there. I was actually
Yeah.
so lucky that when I was 20 years old, I got to come to New York and play drums, like session drums for a band called Trident, which has
Uh-huh.
one of the other guitarist from Dissection, from
Oh wow.
Storm of the Light Bane. It's his band, so I was
Oh,
super
holy
lucky
shit.
to be able to hang out with him and consider him a friend.
That
So
is
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, super nice experience, and so Dissection definitely a big part of my upbringing in metal music.
Oh, likewise is here, man. I was kind of late to the party hearing about Dissection. I think it probably, oh, I would say like mid 2000s. and Starborn Lights Banes had come and gone, and I got on that, and I'm still on it.
Yeah,
It's
it
just one of
just
those classics.
yeah, it's just so tasty, man. It's so mature, and it's the older I get, the more mind blown I am thinking about how young Jan was when he wrote all of that stuff, and just the quality. It sounds so mature. It reminds me of the Beatles, because often when I listen to the Beatles, which actually doesn't happen that much, but it always makes me think, like, how can a 21-year-old think about or write in such a mature way? It's definitely the same when I
Oh, he was
listen
younger
to
than that.
Dissection. He was
Yeah,
16 when he made the first album, and Storm
right,
of the
right.
Light Spain, he must have been like 20 or something, or 19. So, and the whole lore, the saga is also, super interesting. Can't
Yeah,
believe he went all, yeah, he walked the full mile and took it as seriously as you can, I guess.
he
And
he went he went all into what he was about. That's for sure.
yeah, he never backed
That's just
down.
putting it lightly. But I'm really curious to hear your story, Ragnar. And that's pretty much what I do here. Is when an artist comes on, it's just going back to as far as your childhood, as far as you want to take it, and hearing your story, like what led you down to your first riff that you heard that inspired you to get into music as a whole, and then eventually into metal.
All right, okay, where to begin, man? So I'm born in '89. I have an older brother. He's born in '83, so we're both like millennials. But as often is the case, it's an older sibling or an uncle or something that gets you into rock and then metal. So I guess like the first band that I ever remember listening to was Queen. We had this live compilation of Queen songs, and I was heavily into that as probably like 5 or 6 years old. And the first ever yeah, I remember like I went to, because kids here used to be sent off in the summer to go stay in farms. That's what they did to make us learn how to work and
Oh wow!
get rid of us for a few months. So I went to
Oh
this
wow!
farm, and it was my extended family, and I told my cousin, like, yeah, I listen to metal, and he said, so what do you listen to? I was like, Queen. That's not metal, man. You're not a metalhead. And that broke my heart as probably I was like 10 years old or something. So I went, when I got back home to the capital city of Reykjavik, I went to the record store and asked the clerk, like, I need a metal record, like right now. It's very serious. And he showed me two albums. I don't know which the other one was that I didn't pick. It's probably like an Iron Maiden album. But the one that I ended up buying was Load by Metallica. So that's the first ever Metallica album I ever heard was Load.
Yeah, yeah,
It's probably, hardcore Metallica fans would not probably pick as a good introduction to the band. I love it. It was a soundtrack to a great time in my life.
yeah. I have a younger sister, and that's what I pushed on her. It was because
Yeah,
it was so available, and it was on radio.
absolutely. And super accessible songs. I mean, it's easy to get into. It's not as hardcore as Ride the Lightning, and it's more just like heavy rock, I guess. So anyway, I guess that's where my brother's influence kind of faded away, because he wasn't into more heavy stuff than that. So I also have a cousin who was heavily into the new metal thing. So this is early, 1997, 8,
Hmm.
99.
Yeah.
And he was listening to Soulfly and Slipknot, the first album in Iowa when that came out. And he used to bring me to shows. So there were like all ages hardcore shows here in Reykjavik. The death metal scene was pretty much just completely dead. We used to have one in the 90s, but it's such a small country and it's such a small population that, in my experience, usually there's always only been like kind of been like room for one scene at a time. So
Hmm.
the death metal scene kind of like died, and then everyone was into hardcore and nu metal. And yeah, in those years, 99 to 2000 something. And he used to bring me to shows and make me hold his Nokia phone and his like wallet with the chain while he went into the mosh pit. So I stood there on the sidelines on top of a chair to oversee what was happening, and was exposed to all of that stuff. And yeah, heavily into Slipknot and all that. I guess that's kind of like the Slayer of my generation.
Yeah,
Or
I never thought about it like that, and you make a great point. Because people born in your era about 89. I was born in 80, so I'm just 3 years older than your older brother.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, I had the Slayer in 86, and it's only fitting that whenever you came up, I mean, you had, Slipknot's. I mean, my personal favorite was the Iowa album. I mean, it was just
yeah.
fucking
That's it.
insane.
Fuck yeah, I totally agree, man. It's a brutal album.
Brutal album.
You can't tell me it's not a heavily emotional. It's borderline to straight up death metal album. Yeah, I love it. Totally
Oh yeah,
agree, man.
yeah.
And it's absolutely a gateway band for people from my age. You know, we all got into Slipknot and then moved on to black metal and death metal, and and Iowa. That's where I heard my first blast beat, and didn't really like it, and yeah, it took me a while to start to appreciate those things. And then when I got a little older, there was these Icelandic forums where black metal bands were posting songs with blast beats and stuff, and that's when it finally clicked, and I started to love the extreme music. And I had always been playing some instruments. I was in a school band. I played the trombone for a few years,
Yeah.
and then it was absolute happenstance that I got into drumming because of a family friend was moving abroad. He was going to go study in Denmark or something, and he needed a place to store his drum kit. So he used to be a drummer in some 90s death metal bands, and he left it at my house for some reason. And that's it. Drum kits have a magnetic attraction to kids. You're gonna have to
Oh
sit down
yeah.
and try it, and
Got to make some noise.
yeah, never looked back, man. Started to play along with Nirvana songs, and I guess Queens of the Stone Age, the Songs for the Deaf album came
That's
out.
a great album too.
Oh, I listened to that so much, man. It's such a interesting recording um, method because I heard they recorded the drums, so the shells completely isolated away from the cymbals. So they did two
Mhm.
different takes. That's why it sounds so great, man. And of course,
Yeah.
it was uh, what's his name again?
Dave Grohl, the
Yeah,
drum. Yeah.
yeah. It was his first like actually real drumming album in a few years, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was just hooked on in those years, and trying
I
to
know.
imitate him.
Yeah, all the fills, the syncopations that he does on that album is just it's fucking incredible. That's what I mean. Whenever I heard "No One Knows" the first single, I was like, "This drumming sounds very familiar." And having not known it was Dave Grohl on the album, I was like, "This sounds like fucking Dave Grohl, like hitting his
Oh,
heaviest." Sure enough, when it broke out, when I saw the video, I was like, "Yep, Dave Grohl doing his thing."
hell yeah, man! So tasty. Like everything he plays on that record is just so catchy. Like none of the songs are like fillers.
No,
He's just the master of coming up with a drumming arrangement that perfectly complement what has been written on the string instruments. And I guess that's a really good introduction to drumming, to grow up with that and try to imitate that. So
yeah, I know. I would as a kid definitely, or like when I was like a teenager, and like hearing uh, Dave Lombardo. I mean, I just was just had two wooden spoons and beating the shit out of my mom's couch pillows, just doing what I could. And so yeah, maybe I'm a drummer first, then an actual guitar player.
I think everyone is a little bit of a drummer, and everyone who plays an instrument should always give the drums a try because it's the foundation, and it's the rhythmical instrument.
Yeah.
It's also good for drummers to try at least to get to grips just in a tiny bit with melodic instruments. It'll help you uh, contributing into the songwriting process in a more, in my opinion, in a better way because you're not, yeah, you can connect to the ideas of the other players in the band and try to get on the same page and make it all fit.
So you made the transition from band trombone to drums, and how long you been playing drums now?
22 years. It was in
Wow.
2001 that I got the kit, so it's been a
Oh
while,
wow.
man.
Dang. And since then, I mean, like you said, from the start of the conversation, you became a session drummer for other bands. I mean, obviously, Iceland's a small country, like you said, and um, you've got to be you have to know your shit if you're going to be a session drummer in New York. I mean, so how did that come about?
Uh, I guess I've always been very lucky in the fact that I've always been playing in bands with guitarists who are really good. So I think they have always been. When I was a teenager, I was in bands with musicians who were way better than me on the. They were better at guitar than I was on the drums. So they always kind of like elevate me, or they would drag me up to a higher level. They wouldn't just settle. And
Yeah.
the first ever death metal band, the first ever metal band I ever joined. I was 16, and they said you're going to have to learn Crystal Mountain by Death, and you have
Yes.
to learn Disciple by Slayer. Before the first practice, I was 16. I was fucking shitting my pants, and they were all like large bodybuilder types, and they were just like, you just gotta do it, man, or we're gonna beat you up.
That's an interesting. That's an interesting point you just made. Like everything I know about Iceland, y'all are some large mammals. Like, I mean, what the fuck is in y'all water over there, man? I mean, it's just everyone's
uh,
strong. Everyone's in a strongman competition. Everyone's like hoisting up logs over their head that shouldn't be raised. It's crazy.
I don't know where that comes from, man, but yeah, we guess it's all the fish we eat or something. But
Fucking land of the
when
Viking.
I'm at home, I feel like I'm just a medium-sized guy. But if I go to fucking Latin America, I feel like a giant. So yeah, yeah. But I was definitely not the tallest one in that first band. But yeah, like
Yeah.
as I was saying, I've always been like kind of dragged along and made to play maybe a little bit even above my current talent, and
Right.
I've always had to like scramble to keep up with the other guys. From the
Mhm.
age I was like 16 until maybe in my late 20s when I finally felt like I was on par with the guys I was playing with.
Yeah, that's impressive, man. That's like it's they have a saying over here. It's like you either shit or get off the pot. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is early 2000s when I was getting into drumming. So all the stuff that I was into was like very fast and very technical. I was into Spawn of Possession, it's a technical death metal band from Sweden. Really, really, really obsessed over Hate Eternal. They had King of All King come out in 2001. I think it's my favorite death metal album of all time. There's an American black metal band called Cult of Azazel or Cult of Azazel or however you pronounce that. Super fast drumming. They're a Florida-based black metal band.
Uh-huh.
Behemoth released Demigod in 2004. So this is all of the stuff that I was obsessing about, and I got introduced to that through just uh, hanging out on blackmetalradio.com. It's generated like an auto playlist,
Yeah.
and always the faster, more technical stuff is the things that grabbed my attention. So I guess that's what I was always aspiring to try to be like and play like that. And since my bandmates were also on board, we all wanted to play fast and technical. I guess that helped me to quickly, adapt and be able to, yeah, be ready to do session work later.
Yeah. So like,
So,
yeah. I'm,
yeah,
I'm sorry. You right out of the gate. I mean, 16 years old. You're learning Crystal Mountain. I mean, and
attempting to learn. I never said I could do it perfectly. Not at all.
I mean, my point is that from an early age you set the bar really fucking high for yourself, and I think that's what great musicians do, like such as yourself, because you set a goal and you work hard to attain it, and here you are, man. I mean, you signed to Season of Mist. Uh, some of the bands that you mentioned, like Hate Eternal. I mean, that's your label mates now, man. That's fucking wild.
Oh, it's unreal. But I've always thought that it's super important to have role models that are like way better than you, and to believe that you can one day maybe get there. And I felt throughout the years, as soon as I reach some milestone, I can play this song by this band. I maybe have obsessed about the song for a few years, and as soon as I can finally play it or do a cover of it or something, I usually never listen to it again. It's completely like uninteresting to me, and I always have to find something the next step.
Hmm.
And I've been saddened by some of my friends, my colleagues here, all the drummers who see someone who's really great, some fucking YouTube video, and their first reaction is just like, "Oh, I can never do that. I'm just gonna give up." I'm
Just
like,
gonna give
"No,
up.
dude, we gotta. If he can do it, we must be able to do it too, man."
Yeah.
And yeah, so and being so isolated, living here in Iceland, there's not a big scene, and I couldn't just go to shows and watch insanely good drummers like Derek Roddy from Hate Eternal or Hannes Grossman from Necrophagist. We all had to study it from afar through the internet, and this is even pre-YouTube, so we would hang out at the forums and ask all the questions, and it's
I did
pretty
the
much
same
just
thing. Did the same
yeah.
thing. I was, I make mention of it on my podcast just about every episode. I feel like um, I've grown up with the internet. In 1995, American Online was the biggest thing. It was the only way I could access the internet, and they had these chat rooms. And I remember being at like 96, 97 at my parents' house talking to on these forums, and they had people who knew about black metal. I was like, well, I'm in the Slayer. What's black metal? They're like, oh, dude, check this shit out. And before you know it, I'm listening to Gargaroth, Dark Throne, Mayhem from Norway, and that's it. That's where I'm at.
Oh man, yeah, I get so nostalgic. I barely caught the end of IRC chat, if you remember that. That came before like MySpace and everything.
Oh yeah,
And I think most people my age never got into that. But because I had an older brother, I would imitate what he was doing online. And yeah, man, you got some upbringing from strangers online who would
yeah,
direct you to music or fucking movies and horror movies or sci-fi and stuff like that.
exactly.
Yeah, and I guess like being anonymous on the internet is sometimes creates a lot of toxicity, but it also made people share way more freely their true
Oh yeah,
opinions, and I felt often like I was witnessing like way more honest discussion.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm nostalgic about those times. Now it's all on Facebook. Your fucking true name and social security number is connected to it, so people just like tread on eggshells every time they open their mouth online, which is
Oh
I
yeah.
do that too. I try to keep my mouth shut, but yeah, those were good times, man.
I know. It's like going to a damn freak carnival show. Every time I log into Facebook and I get involved with a group chat, or a friend will just make one outlandish, post just for the sake of being outlandish and attention seeking. And I'm like, dude, first of all, you're wrong, but I mean, but that's what they want. They just want a fucking audience. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, man, and the mysticism. Someone says they believe this or they're into that, and you're like, you kind of believe it. But today you can just go and look at his profile photo, and you can see like, no, he's just bullshitting.
Exactly, dude. So what you said the first EP dropped in 2020?
Yeah, it was a full length.
Full length, sorry, full length.
So I actually made the first album in like 2015 to 2017, and I just dropped it online in 2018 without telling anyone. Just put it on Bandcamp and sent the link to a few of my friends. And then I got because I had no idea people were going to be into it or even like it, because I've never been a songwriter, always just been the drummer.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Apart from like a few songs in my old band here and there, but I could see there was a really positive reaction. So that's when I thought like, oh, maybe I should actually take it down and attempt to approach a label for it. And Season of Mist was the first label I talked to, because most of my favorite bands have been from there. Mayhem and yeah, all these great bands that I've listened to, and they were immediately into it. So I never even talked to another label. We just since they were open to signing it, and after hashing out some details, that's where it ended up. So the proper physical release was in 2020, but it had actually, yeah, with
Wrote it.
one extra song. I added another song, but it was pretty much old news by then. So the new album that came out this year is the first one that I wrote specifically for the label and with the intent of releasing it to the public.
What was the recording process like for you? I mean, it sounds like you did everything by yourself at this point. Did you have to convert? Did you go to a studio, or did you like do everything, within your home studio, or what was that like?
For the first album, I went to a studio here in Iceland, but for the new album, the one that just came out, yeah, I've already built a pretty good home studio. So has my bandmate Simon. He has one as well at his home, and we Niall released an album in 2020 or 2021, and I really, really loved the sound of that album. And we were talking about it. We figured out that the mastering and mixing engineer is an American called Mark Lewis from Tennessee.
Yep.
Absolutely incredible. So I approached him and to see if he was willing to mix and master our new album, and thankfully he said yes. And then I asked, like, would you be willing to be involved in the recording process from afar? And he was also thankfully down for that. So even though I recorded it here at home, I did everything pretty much exactly down to the detail as he wanted it to be done. So he instructed me on which instruments we should use. Like, I rented a specific drum kit that he wished for. I put the drum heads that he said were going to work. We rented all the microphones that he asked for specifically, and then I video called him and we set everything up exactly as he wanted it, and sent him samples, recording samples, and made so he was willing to be super involved, which I was so thankful for because it was a lot of work for him in a totally different time zone, and not
Right. Right.
not 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 really part of what he signed up for in the first place. So
Yeah.
when we finally delivered the recordings to him, they were as close to being something that he had recorded as they could be, not being in his studio, I guess. So, and I learned a fuck ton from him because he just made so many things make sense about the limited real estate of frequencies and how to make everything have room in the mix, and that influenced all these decisions, like about the instrument choices and the microphone choices. And yeah, and then in the end he was the one who mixed and mastered it, and he's just a master of a good guitar tone, and we have a lot of symphonic elements on there, and he made sure that they would never overshadow just the basic metal band, the
Hmm.
bass, the guitars, the drums. And so yeah, I have to give a huge credit to him. But we also knew what we wanted it to sound like, that's why
Yeah.
we picked him, and we told him about other albums that we enjoyed, and it was just so easy to communicate with him. He understood perfectly what we were going for, and I'm so happy with the result. Like, I think the drums sound so natural, and they are perfectly natural, just with a tiny bit of compression, and they just it just gives me goosebumps every time I listen to a tom tom roll or something.
Yeah. I know
He's a
exactly who
magician.
Mark Lewis is because I mean, the Mark has his own drum kit on Easy Drummer.
Yeah,
The software that I use to program drums because I'm no drummer, but you know I know what should be in a metal song without trying to make it seem overcomplicated. I guess.
yeah, absolutely, man. I've used his presets for demoing and stuff like that, and his guitar tone. We
Oh,
even use it for, yeah, just incredible, just a magician, man. So yeah, I'm very grateful that he was willing to do that because, as I said, after the first album, I mean, we were very happy with the results, but we were still very unknown, I guess,
Mhm.
and I thought it was a stamp of quality that he would be willing to put his name uh, on the band, So
Yeah. So,
super happy.
so y- even the affirmation you mentioned about Nile being one of the bands that you want to have that sound. What's some other bands that really was a sound that you were going for this particular new album?
Uh, I guess I'm a fan of bands from the Polish scene. So maybe the Apostasy, released by Behemoth in I think 2007 or 2006, had a great organic drum sound on it. And of course, I'm going to be focusing a lot on the drums.
Oh yeah, obviously you're a drummer.
And since we were going to be incorporating some VSTs, symphonic stuff, I always loved the Dimmuborgir album from 2003, Death Cult Armageddon.
Hmm.
I think I probably mentioned that album to Mark at the beginning. And yeah, I don't remember if there were many other specific albums, but mainly I just wanted everything to be audible because I recorded so many albums where all the little details, the splash cymbals or these little intricate picking sounds of the guitars get lost in the mix, and it's so frustrating because you may be spent some time to get it down to sound like that, and then because of some recording decisions, there's just not room for it in the mix. So I just wanted everything to be audible and keep it quite old school, but with a modern mix, loud, aggressive, and yeah, in your face.
How often would you and your song your writing partner would get together to like rehearse prior to recording the album?
Oh, never.
Never.
No, man. Uh, so I would just write the songs, and I use a tablature editing thing, Guitar Pro, and
Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that.
no worries, man.
You
Yeah,
go.
and sent him uh, the Guitar Pro files. He would record guitar demos of it, and then when I sat down to record the album, I had never practiced the drums. They were all just in my head, and like I said, because I've been brought up with drummers like Dave Grohl and Nick Barker from Dimmu who are so good at complementing the songs with their drumming and not trying to do their own thing, but knowing when to fall back and give room for a lead in the guitars or something. I don't know. As soon as I wrote the songs, I felt like I knew exactly how the drums were going to be. They were going to be accentuating with a simple hit or something at the same time as the guitars were doing an accentuation. So
Mhm.
yeah, I never rehearsed any of it, and
That's wild.
probably neither did Simon. I mean, I probably chopped it up, when he was recording it. But I think for the drums, we didn't do that many takes. Probably two or three takes per song. There was one song that I definitely one taked, song number 6, Cinder. So I'd just been thinking about it in my car on the way to work or something.
Yeah,
And then I,
the album from top to bottom is just like I said, it's nothing short of incredible. Uh, it gave me some new perspective on what symphonic metal could be is and what it could going forward what it could sound like in the future. Definitely. And then you have like like I said, like some old school flair to it as well. It's like you found a perfect balance in what you were trying and what you wrote and what was able to record.
thanks, man. Yeah, I'm glad to hear. I think it's not for everyone. There's definitely people who are, because I guess it's like balancing on a knife's edge, and I guess it can give a hint of this old school vibe, but it's also very modern sounding, and I guess some of the riff and some of the riffing is quite more modern, or maybe I'm not going to say technical because I don't feel it's a particularly technical album, but some people are waiting for it to go full old school and they want to hear like an old Mayhem album and they
Yeah.
get frustrated with it. And then others are trying to hear a technical death metal album because we're also part of a technical death metal band that's way bigger than HELFRO actually. It's also signed to Season of Mist, and they are frustrated that it's not another album like that.
Hmm.
But for me, I just the ones that get it are probably people like me who just very simply put, they just like evil riffs and blast beats,
Yeah.
and it's
That, that, I-
it's not,
the category I fall under.
yeah.
If you got blast beats and evil atmosphere and evil riffs, dude, I, I'm sold. You got me.
Yeah, doesn't have to be too complicated, man. And
Nah,
then
man.
just
I'm an old school caveman, freaking, just hanging out.
yeah, we're all chasing that high. I believe, when you first get into metal and you feel this surge of power, this fucking masculating whatever it is, and
Yeah, yeah,
that's,
yeah.
I don't care where it comes from. It can be black metal or death metal or sometimes even fucking power metal or thrash metal or 90s hip hop, if they're singing about some hardcore shit. That's kind of the feeling that I'm always chasing when I listen to new bands,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm trying to create.
What kind of bands right now are you listening to that maybe the audience in America doesn't know about that we would
Uh,
know about?
I always fall back on the stuff that I got into in the early 2000s. So I think I'm just gonna have to, yeah. So Thorns, It's a Norwegian black metal band that completely sculpted the direction where this scene was going to take. You know, not a lot of people know about it. They put out an album in 2001 that I always go back to and listen to. Mayhem, when they had the guitarist Blasphemer on board, so all of
Yeah.
his work with the band. Um, these are albums that I listen to again and again and again. They're so different from each other. His three full lengths with the band, so Grand Declaration of War, Chimera, and Ordo ad Cao. And I really I'm so mind blown how you can completely reinvent yourself with every album like he did back then.
Mhm.
You know, Hate Eternal, you know, whenever I want to, yeah, just hear perfect drumming. um, and yeah, I don't know. I'm so bad at checking out new bands. I super got into Ominous Ruin, which is a technical death metal band from the States. They're from
Uh-huh.
California. They released an absolutely incredible album last year, I think, called what was it? Fucking Echoes of Infinity in Stone. I'm butchering the name of the album. Something like that. But then I fall back on the other stuff, you know, Spawn of Possessions, Cabinet from 2003. Yeah, I always go back. I think we all do, man.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. I uh, I kind of depend on my younger friends to like put me in a direction of what's new, and it's mainly, I mean, they probably swing more towards the technical and like just more brutal death metal of that's coming out. Bands like Vitriol, which I enjoy those guys
Oh,
a lot. Vitriol is fucking insane.
they're
Um,
incredible.
yes, I was able to meet them in New Orleans when they played a couple times, and great guys. Uh, and but yeah, like you, I kind of fall back on what I've always grew up with.
Yeah,
Like I mentioned, Dark Throne. And Dark Throne they just keep putting out new record after new record every year.
yeah,
So that's I love that about them, as well as listen to their classics. But anyway, I want to ask you, being in Iceland, uh, as a native from Iceland, like, do y'all get into like any kind of spats or kind of issues with people in the rest of Scandinavia? Of like, how's the competition? I should say, in regards to music, is that a thing, or it's not so much you worry about?
not really. I think like the rest of Scandinavia, and I'm absolutely I'm actually not even sure if Iceland can be classified as part of Scandinavia. But I think you know, the other Nordic countries kind of just look at us as the retarded cousin or something, because we are very much like, we are so stuck in between Europe and America, so we consume a lot of media from America, and we all know how to speak English because we grow up with uh, Western media, I guess, and
Yeah,
so we never fully feel a part of that culture, and we never fully feel a part of Nordic culture or Europe. So I guess like, no, there's no tension or competition. I think
yeah,
they never felt threatened by us, and until maybe recently, when, you know, in the past 10 years, Iceland has produced for some reason a swathe of great black metal bands. But I
yeah,
think we've all been absolutely welcomed with open arms into the scene, at least, you know, for the most part. And I think everyone with a brain realizes that the metal scene is such a small scene anyway, globally, that
yeah,
as soon as someone is getting recognition or doing good things, it's good for the all of the others as well, because people are going to get into your band, and then they're going to branch out and check out bands from other countries or similar stuff. You know,
yeah. I
I
absolutely
never,
agree with
yeah, never felt any pushback. Sorry.
it. I know that in my hometown and some of the local areas that there some like gatekeeping is a huge thing, and I mean, I'll see it. I'll see the term thrown around everywhere on social media as well, and it's kind of sad. Like you said, it's metal community by and large is a small community, and man, like if you'd have told me 2 years that I'd be speaking to a gentleman from Iceland, about his recording and everything you're into, I'd have been like, I don't know about that, but here we are, and got to meet a number of bands, in the scene, and some friendly, some not, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah, no, man, I never got the gatekeeping thing because the people who created the foundations that we're all building our music on, they were quite open-minded actually.
Oh yeah,
They were listening to way more than just metal, and they didn't. They, I remember like reading about how Euronymous from Mayhem, and I know that Jon from Dissection agreed with this. It's just like playing black metal, for example, is not about anything other than creating this dark feeling, and it can come from fucking anywhere. And they were into Diamant de Galas and things that the gatekeepers today online would never fucking accept as anything other than cringe, or but
yeah,
in order to create something new like they did back in the 90s, and also with the death metal scene, you have to have influences from more than just one direction.
yeah,
And if it's about like spiritualism, which I guess a lot of people are also, they connect it to the music. I also think, you know if you believe in Lucifer and all that shit, he had a liberal mindset. He wanted to be free of any shackles of the mind, I guess, or according to the lore, I guess. So I think we all have this duality within ourselves, and when you're making black metal or dark extreme music, you are expressing one side of it. And if people want to try to put a label on everything, or tell you what is or what isn't true, I think they're just fucking stupid.
yeah. Yeah, that's a damn good point you just made. And speaking of subject matter in your lyrics, if you don't mind, like what are some of the things that you write about in Helfro?
It's just very different between the two albums. And for the new album, Tálgröf, uh, all the lyrics are based upon journals and interviews and features on mass murderers who
Oh,
were
nice.
either so I thought like it's always been fascinating to me, the extremes of the human, whatever we do as humans, and how some people go and do incredible selfless acts, heroic activities for the greater good, I guess. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have like narcissistic psychopaths,
Yeah,
and both are equally as interesting to me, because most of us are somewhere in the middle. We're not always sure what we're going to do in certain situations. So I thought like all these people who are guilty of murder and violence, they must have some things in common with each other, and so that's what I was exploring on the new album. And I did find out that a lot of them have delusions of grandeur, and
oh yeah,
a lot of them are purposefully trying to poison their mind to be able to be the violent person they perceive themselves to be, but
right.
aren't really, without some external help, desensitization and stuff like that. And so each of the songs is about one of these aspects. So one of the songs, song number 7, is just about lying and manipulation, and another song is just about desensitized desensitization, purposeful, and
Mhm.
so yeah, those are the uplifting, positive subject matters of the new album.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you actually shared that with me, man, because it's um a lot of people will like play it close to the vest. When it comes, they don't want to give away everything into their writing process and the subject matter. So I appreciate that. That's always been an interest to me of what the artist is interested in, and what goes into the song itself.
Sure, man, but there's also many layers to it, and even if I said a little bit, I haven't given away the whole thing, so
Oh yeah, yeah.
the mystery hasn't been spoiled. And for people who want to dive into the lyrics, they're probably going to find a lot of hopefully they'll be able to interpret things in their own way and maybe draw some connections. You know.
I know one of my good friends who was a part of this podcast and a good friend of mine. He would love to get inside your head as far as like getting into the psychosis or maybe sharing some conversation with everything serial killers and mass murders. He's all about that. Um, um, I know for me, like you said, I'm right in that middle of that spectrum because I know that I can go from 0 to 60 like that, but you know, I just know that I can't allow myself to just go and think homicidal, like a homicidal
Uh,
maniac, because then I'll be in a
no.
bad spot.
No, man, but it's also a heavy subject matter, and
It really is.
sometimes I've been into it a lot and listened to like true crime stuff, but I always I get my fill at some point, and I just don't want to fucking think about it because it's depressing. But when I had to kind of dive deep for the album because I had decided that this was going to be the inspiration, you know. So yeah, and at the end of the writing process for the lyrics, I was completely fucking exhausted because it's really draining to put yourself inside the mind of people like that. They're very self-absorbed, and it's just so dark and negative all the time. So I was very, very happy when I finished the last lyrics and could just start fucking thinking about
Just
something
like
else, you know.
I'll put it. I'm done with it. We're good. It's
Yeah, for sure, man. Thankfully, I don't identify a lot with that, but it's very interesting. Just thinking about how people get to that spot, you know.
okay. So whenever you back home in Iceland, when you're not drumming or writing, like what's keeping you busy as far as daily life, I guess.
uh, it's I do have a day job,
Oh,
so I climb radio towers and install antennas and shit like that.
oh wow.
But for the past 2.5 years, I've been building my own house, so I haven't really had anything that could even remotely be considered as social life or or a lot of free time. It's just all of my time has been sunk into that. So I'm on the later stages. I'll be moving in soon, and then finally
Nice.
I'll have more time to write and obsess about new subjects, I guess. So yeah, building
So
houses and climbing towers.
hey man, that's awesome though. You that once you're done, it's gonna be yours.
Oh, it'll be great. Yeah.
Yeah. So you said when we began that y'all don't tour, but that's still gonna be changing. Y'all got anything lined up for next year or?
Yeah, we have some things confirmed. I'm not allowed to say, unfortunately. I wish I could. It'll be revealed in January. And we're taking a huge step and making a full band out of this. And this means we have to recruit more members because the two of us are not going to be able to deliver the whole material. So yeah, that's what I've been working on for the past months. Is just gathering the gear necessary, gathering the all the members, and planning how we're going to execute it. So yeah, look out for January or early next year. We're going to have some announcements, and I'm super excited to bring this stuff to the States. I think it's the songs are short; they're to the point. I think it can easily be translated into a great live set.
I believe so too. I mean, the latest offering you had, I've been jamming that, just to kind of do my homework on you, and I was like, man, this shit's so good. Like I've already added to my favorites. I've been putting some friends onto it. They love it. So, hopefully you can bring your band to North America. If I gotta make some travel arrangements, so be it. I'm gonna see y'all.
Excellent, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, I hope I can bring it to the US one day. We'll see. The visa thing is a fucking nightmare,
Oh yeah, I heard that, man.
but you're in for a good time because the scene there is so fucking strong, and I believe the American scene has had a way better rebound from the whole COVID thing than the European scene. It's can be a hit or a miss playing live shows in Europe, but everyone I know that went to the US in the last couple of years have just had fucking a great time.
You have a chance to go like to Oslo and check out some shows over there.
Sure, yeah, yeah. I usually don't go to festivals anymore unless I'm playing there. But I played Inferno Festival in Oslo a few
Oh,
years
you did
ago.
win.
Yeah, yeah, and I went to see a Satyricon show in 2006, just when I was getting into black metal. Went to Oslo and saw them debut their album. What was that called? It has some strange songs on there. The 2006 album by Satyricon. Saw it live in Rockefeller Center in Oslo. So it's just like a 2.5, 3 hour flight for us.
Oh, really? Nice. Because I'll
Yeah,
be
it's
there in
very nice.
March. I'm going to Inferno in March.
Oh, no way. Oh,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
gonna meet a bunch of my friends, man. It's a great festival, and
Wow. Yeah, it'll be my third year going in March.
no way. All right, so you already know what you're in for, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love it there, man. I was like, I once my first year going out there, I was like, this is it for me, man. This has got to be like an annual thing, and I think if I could stretch out a trip to Oslo, I'd like to actually go out to Bergen and catch up Beyond the Gates too, as well, because I hear that's
Oh,
a really good time.
the lineup for next year's Beyond the Gates is just mind blowing. Yeah, I would actually love to be there too. I'll see.
Well,
Yeah,
man,
but
go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, I wasn't gonna say much more just because I have to take holidays off work to play shows, so it's hard for me to take more holidays to just go be a fan. Unfortunately, but thankfully I get to see a lot of bands also when I go to play. So yeah, I just can't really choose where I'll be, but definitely Inferno Festival. I enjoyed it a lot. It's got a few different venues if I recall correctly, and
Yeah,
yeah, just there's some vibe. You step into an atmosphere when you're in Oslo,
it's
thinking
it's
about metal
amazing.
things.
Yeah, I got to hang out with Thomas Erickson of Moik. He's a buddy, and man, he's like he just I just hung out with him, got to meet a lot of cool folks, a lot of his friends, and now they're my friends. So it's fucking awesome. Like you said, it's a small community globally, and every time I go to a festival, it just gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah, man. I mean, we are the anti-culture where we all feel a little bit like outsiders in our respective small hometowns, I guess. So whenever you meet a like-minded person who understands the weird ass music that you're into, it's
Absolutely,
always it's always great, and it should be like that. It shouldn't be gatekeeping. It should be fucking rejoicing and brotherhood. That's how I feel.
absolutely. Man, so before I let you get out of here, I always ask my guests, like, what are 6 albums you simply cannot live without?
Oh, that's gonna be a hard choice. Okay, uh, immediately I think of King of All Kings by Hate Eternal,
Mhm,
uh, the Thorns album that I previously mentioned.
mhm.
Let's say Grand Declaration of War by Mayhem,
Halfway
um,
there.
Death Cult Armageddon by Dim Borgir, um, The World, the Flesh, and the Devil by Cult of Azazel, and Demigod by Behemoth. I think these albums shaped me and had the greatest impact on me. So I wouldn't want to lose the opportunity to listen to them one last time.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's a great 6. A lot of stuff that has not been repeated on this podcast, and like I don't know, I'm upwards of 60 episodes now, and I don't think anyone's mentioned those 6 albums.
No, man, they're all fast as fuck and
Fast
extreme.
fuck.
It's ADHD stuff, I guess.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, shit, man. Thanks for joining me, man. And I'm glad to, like I said, glad to get a face with the band and with the name. This has been really, really awesome.
Hey, man, it's been my pleasure. Thanks so much for taking the time, and yeah, it's been great hanging out and chatting about music, man. Thank you very
Oh yeah,
much.
yeah. Fuck, stay in touch.
Definitely will. Maybe we'll see each other in Inferno someday, huh?
Hey, I will definitely. Hopefully, I'll see you there next year.
I hope so too. You never know. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Well, man, best of luck to you, Ragnar, on the house, and you know, take it one step at a time when you climb on those towers, because I know what that's life's like. I got a bunch of friends who climb towers as well over here in the States, and it's not fun. but uh, but anyway, man. Thanks again, and I really appreciate the time to come on the podcast with me, and I'm looking forward to what you have next with your bands, and keep me posted if you come to North America.
Thank you so much.
You too, bud.